Good evening, Parish President and Council. Tonight I will present to you our St. Charles Parish Animal Control Report and what we have done in 2020, which I thought would be less than 2019, but it turns out that we have actually improved a lot in our department. The work of the animal shelter is done by 4 animal control officers, 2 kennel attendants, and an assistant director, and myself. I serve as your supervisor and veterinarian. And we can say that all of our staff is highly trained in investigation and animal welfare and humane officer training. The animals that we take in per year did decrease in 2020, and a big portion of that was during a 3-month modification of operation during quarantine. We still intook animals, but we had a unique process that we'll go through later. But ultimately, we took in a total of 525 dogs, 855 cats, and we decreased by about 27% our annual intake of homeless animals. The ways that we get them out of our animal shelter is they go through a 5-day stray hold, and if no one claims them, then they have some options of how are they going to get out of this kennel. And we want them out of the kennel because it saves us money, it saves us time, it saves us chemical and cleaning, and it is much better physically for the animal, behaviorally, physically. So owners do reclaim their pets. We actually have a fairly high reclaim rate. We do everything we can in terms of uploading on Facebook, and we have an instant link on Adopt a Pet on our software, and it's been like that for 3 years. So everyone can see what we have in our shelter on Adopt a Pet or Finding Rover, and owners often see their pets that way and come back and get them. Dogs have a pretty good owner reclaim rate of 22%, and cats just historically have a very low rate of 2%. Adopted locally, we had about 15% adoption rate for dogs and cats locally. We did see a small decrease in dog adoptions locally, a bigger decrease in cat adoptions locally this year, and lots of reasons for that. Everyone had some financial struggles, change in lifestyle, but we had some great increases in fostering that I'll talk about later. National adoptions will fulfill that gap in the local adoptions. So we had 141 cats, 160 dogs adopted in other states. And the movement of those pets is after they're out of their legal stray hold. We do not pay to have them sent to our receiving shelters, and they're typically adopted in less than 3 days. Live outcome rate is the most impressive slide to me. And our dog live release rate is at 87%. Cats are at 79%. This is how shelters kind of gauge their effectiveness in their community. And I can say that all of that is due to aggression or medical reasons why we're not 100%. So that shows what the community puts in the shelter, and some areas that we have to improve are just at the core issues. But we have not euthanized for space in 5 years now at the animal shelter. It's all based on behavioral and medical. Length of stay is another area that I am impressed that our animals had a shorter length of stay this year, even with all the challenges. And dogs stay at the shelter about 9 days, cats about 10 days. So for dogs, that was a decrease in how long they're with us by 58%. And for cats, that's 51%. Once again, our goal is to get them into homes, healthier and just more fiscally responsible to do that. And then some options that we came up with during COVID and challenges was often people will find a healthy dog and the owner will find it on Facebook within 24 hours. So instead of impounding it, having a fee, etc., a lot of people were very willing to hold the dog they found for 24 hours and reunite with the owner. Some people offered to foster that pet for the 5-day stray hold, and the way that would look is we would have a mobile option. The veterinarian and an assistant would go to the person's front yard, do full medical care on this animal, including microchip, and ultimately intake it like it's a shelter animal. It gets advertised, and if no one comes to claim the pet, The pet does come into the animal shelter as one of our residents, and we had a 280% increase in fostering that way. So it saves our staff cleaning time, and it's better for the animal to be in a home. And many of these people ended up adopting these animals that they fell in love with. We also have challenges when people want to surrender their own pets. Sometimes that's an emergent need. We have to intake them at that moment, but for the most part, it's not an emergency. So we give them a time frame now. If you need to surrender your pet, we do this mobile medical care, fully vet the animal, and we will find a placement for it within 2 weeks, whether locally or nationally. And a large number of people rather do that than put their animal in a cage at the shelter and still have a good outcome of a home in a short time. Reasons for decisions, overwhelmingly, it's aggression, and I just can't change that. So we do a lot to educate. That's the biggest hat all of our staff wears. And even for dogs and cats, aggressive issues are the number one reason. We do a lot with medical care. That Yorkie actually did come in with that giant tumor hanging off of it. It was horrible, and we couldn't leave it like that while it waited for its owner to be found. So we removed it, and then when the owner didn't claim it, we did look into it, and it was cancer, and it was aggressive, and it wasn't fair to keep the dog. So we do what we can, but sometimes we just can't change a negative outcome. Surgeries in 2020 we thought would be fairly altered because we had to conserve personal protection equipment. We use a lot of that at the animal shelter: gloves, gowns, caps, masks. So we had to put a hold on something that's very important to us: trap, neuter, and return of cats that are not causing a nuisance complaint. But ultimately we had to hold off on that for a couple of months. We still have our highest TNR rate ever of 385 cats, and 40% we had funded by the Humane Society of the United States this year. And that makes a big difference because in 2016, we used to take in 450 kittens a year, and the staff would clean like hamsters, like 7 hours a day. And then you don't have time for core community projects that cause this homelessness, which is reproduction. And now we take in about 120 kittens a year. So after 5 years, we're seeing the impact in a positive way of we're having less homelessness. In-house surgeries, we did 311 dogs, 572 cats, total of 883. We usually do about 1,200, so that's down a bit. But our parish, if we had the lowest surgery cost available, that would cost us about $81,000, and we do it all in-house, so we're not spending that money. The canine heartworm treatment's 13. Heartworms are from mosquito bites, cost us a lot of money. And then volunteer hours. We have a great, robust volunteer group, but of course all that was altered. But we still had almost 700 volunteer hours. It's an 80% decrease compared to what we usually have. We have modified, and when they have a sign up now, so we have one family on the dogs, one family on the cats, and we have logistically solved it that way. And we have reopened our standing invitation for volunteer training on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Our officers responded to 1,800 calls last year, 250 investigations, and the majority is at large, animals running loose. And it's important to have your animal within a fence or a leash just to protect the public. Even nice animals can run up on a dog that does not like other dogs and cause human injury. Grant opportunities, we really saw it a lot. We were really preparing for this pandemic to cause a surge in owner surrenders. So we had $250,000 in food donated by Greater Good Charities during all these declarations of emergency during hurricanes. And they also provided $13,000 for behavior and operating supplies for hurricane preparation. As you know, we did go off-site with evacuation. And in the first time in the history of ever, we had 0 animals transfer with us because everything that we owned was able to fly nationally and get adopted, and we only had to have animals that we owned present, which was minimal. And we were able to better assist the community in emergency evacuation. Petco and PetSmart funded $8,000 in COVID relief grants to support our community so they didn't have to relinquish their animals, their pets. And the Humane Society of the United States filled a big gap that we had. Our community achieves low-cost spay-neuter. The LASPCA, once a month, they pick up in our parking lot, and they didn't do that all year. So we facilitated that with an $8,500 grant, and we could do that in-house, and LASPCA has restarted, and that has been offered since 2021. ASPCA funded a $57,000 grant for us to utilize this year. And just the summary is it really encompasses all of our Louisiana shelters so that we can all work together better with our OEPs and train. Turning Rescues into Pets, Greater Good just offered a $5,000 grant to support medical needs at veterinary clinics so people can help their pets without surrendering them. We had some law updates. Animal law 4-6 dangerous dog had some revisions for clarification, and 4-51 redemption and adoption. It is now just higher redemption fees if you want your pet out intact. In the past, most of the animals in our shelter were leaving intact, which continues to cost us money, and they breed and we get more friends. So now 70% of our community chooses in-house spay-neuter before they take their pets back, and they pay a lower fee. Network and response, we wrote a volunteer protocol for the Department of Agriculture to share with other animal shelters in the state of Louisiana. We participated in radiological pet decontamination protocol with the Department of Ag. And like I said, all of our officers do spend time in training. And we have had an amazing multi-parish effort in disaster response and training and evacuation and helping each other when storms were impacting places like Calcasieu. We had some facility improvements we had in the budget to epoxy the flooring in the halls and a few rooms that did not have that flooring, lower maintenance, lower cost every 3 months for floor care. And Eagle Scout troops did the shade and bench for our rear area for volunteers working with the pets. Community events, we had less, but we still had them. We had Anytime Fitness outdoor event recently. We still have staff take our animals on a walk with volunteers, tails up and out. We had one birthday party, and we still have our Rescue Run Club every Wednesday at 6 a.m. Anyone can sign up for free. And ultimate goals, public health and safety, and reuniting and adopting healthy, behaviorally sound pets. We just want pets in homes as soon as they're out of their legal strayhold, and it's healthier for the pets, better able to respond for our community in disaster, and it's just fiscally responsible. We spend a lot of time educating, teaching children. We do Zoom meetings for the schools now instead of in person, and we continue our free cat spay, neuter, rabies vaccination microchip. As long as they don't have a nuisance complaint, they can be in that program. And we have also expanded our disaster response training. And I like that shirt, until every cage is empty. And that's some pictures of where we are empty after a transfer. All right, any questions?
Yes, Ms. Troxler.
Yes.
How long has your leash law been in effect?
So our animal ordinances were created about 1996. So we have had a leash law in effect since then, and it still exists.
Okay. How often do you get roaming dogs without leash?
71 of our calls were at-large loose dogs.
Okay.
Out of the 1,800 calls and 250 cases. So 71 were at-large dogs out of 250 cases.
Do you know which were in more districts, or can you say from what areas? Or
I can run that data. I can't tell you I know that data, but we have the ability to run it. I can report back to you.
Great, thanks. Ms. Cluley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The spay and neuter assistance that they offer, is that something you have to qualify for, or you just sign up for and you do it in-house, or you still use the Louisiana SPCA?
So the Louisiana SBCA is what we use. We just had that gap last year that we filled with that $8,500 grant. So we have restarted the Louisiana SBCA this year in January. The third Tuesday of every month, anyone can have low-cost spay-neuter. Cats are $75. Dogs are about $110 to $150, depending on the size, which is very inexpensive. And we take that phone call at the shelter, but everything else is done in our parking lot by the LASPCA.
Oh, so they do it on site?
They come and pick the animals up at our parking lot, bring them to their facility, and bring them back in the afternoon.
And the chips, you do microchips on site? Is that only for dogs that have, or cats that have been picked up, or anybody can bring them in?
So we do not offer as a community clinic microchips or rabies to the public on a daily basis. But if the dog is at the shelter before it's discharged, we do have a mandatory microchip so that we can reunite them more quickly if it happens again. And if you participate in the LASPCA, they have vaccine packages and microchip options.
All right, thank you.
And our rabies drive is April 11th this year, 9 to 12. East and West Bank Bridge Parks. $10 rabies. The only vaccine required by law.
Thank you, Ms. Troxler.
Thank you.